All right, everybody, we are live from Virginia in the same room.
Yeah.
And this is exceptional behavior here. We have arrived home for Thanksgiving break. And so we are doing a in-person show today. And boy, it's just a crazy college football weekend. Lots of amazing games. And I just can't wait to sit down and watch them.
We got a lot of games that matter now for not only for the playoff, but for conference championship games. And it's a big weekend for a lot of teams. And we got not a lot of ranked matchups. I think we got, 2 or 3, a couple I can see, but a lot of games with unranked teams that, boy, they could slip up. I'm looking at the schedule right now. It's a busy day, both 3:30 slate, 7 p.m. slate. If you're not watching 3 or 4 screens, you're missing out.
Yeah, this is going to be quite the weekend, I have to say. So you just want to just dive right into it?
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I think we got to start with the big one, the top 5 matchup, the huge Ohio State, Indiana. And man, this game is going to be crazy. We've been building for this all season, and you don't really think that about Ohio State, Indiana.
Whoa. Big news going to Ohio State? I didn't know they never go.
That's a big shocker.
Okay.
But Indiana is the shocking part here. I mean, Indiana, 11-0 Indiana. Man, it's unbelievable. Great for them as a program. And this is about to be the real test, because Kirk Steady walks the walk and he talks the talk, and he's a stone cold killer, and they've murdered everyone they've played. And they're about to find out if Indiana is for real. And let me tell you, if they beat Ohio State, if they can beat Ohio State, they can beat anybody in the country. Let me just, we'll put it that way. But that's the real question, is can they beat Ohio State? And yeah, I believe it's possible. I believe in Coach Sig. I'm an optimist in college football. I'm always rooting for the little guy. And I don't know if they're going to win, but I am taking Indiana to cover. I got them earlier in the week at Indiana plus 13.5. If you did that, that was the smart move, because it's now dropped down to Indiana plus 10.5. Part of that is due to the fact that Ohio State center is now out for the game, and I believe the rest of the season.
Yes, he's tore his Achilles on Tuesday in practice, and that's a big loss for Ohio State. That is now their second defensive lineman they've lost this season, and this is a team that I had picked to win the national championship. But now, with their second offensive lineman, they're shuffling people around. I think, while I'm not sure it's going to hurt them in this game, I think ultimately with this loss on the offensive line and what's going on, this may end up hurting them for the national championship. I think they may get past this game, but I'm concerned now this team may not be able to win the national championship with these continued losses on the offense.
I tend to agree, because any team that's going to win a national championship is going to have to face at least one, probably 2 teams that have elite defensive tackles. And I just don't see that Ohio State can really hold up against any elite defensive tackle. Like when they against Oregon's best pass rush was out, and Will Howard was still under pressure the entire game. And that was with a much healthier O-line. They've now lost 2 of their starters out for the year going into the season on the O-line, had to reshuffle a lot. And that is the only weakness of the Ohio State team, really, that you can point to. And honestly, Indiana's pass rush has been pretty decent this year. They have been, I think they're top 30 in pressure rate. Their pass rush has certainly been decent. They're good, solid, good tackling defense. If I were Indiana, I'd play a little bit of the, as Cover 3 likes to call it, the red zone roulette, where you just kind of keep everything underneath, solid tackling, hope to hold them to field goals inside the red zone where they can't use all that wide open space and their fast skill position players to beat you. I think that's the Indiana defensive strategy for this game. And offensively, if Curtis Rourke can go, if he's making completions, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year as a college quarterback. Ohio State's defense is good, but they have a lot of townspeople along their front 7 that really have not lived up to their maximum rating. They've been good, not great type of players. And if Indiana's O-line can hold up, not really, you don't have to get like crazy push, but if they can just hold up against Ohio State defensive front, I think Indiana has a real chance to win this game.
Yeah, I think what's the interesting battle for me is going to be Indiana's offense against Ohio State's defense, because very quietly, Ohio State's defense is giving up the fewest amount of points in the country. And while I know that they haven't been playing some of the best offenses, They just don't.
That's an understatement.
Well, yeah, but just teams don't score against them other than Oregon.
Yeah.
And Indiana has been beating teams pretty good. So for me, I think we're going to tell early on, if Indiana's struggling to move the ball, I think Ohio State's going to win this game easily. But if Indiana can get out to an early lead, get some points, I think and can get some comfort level against this defense, then I think that's going to give them the confidence they can to stay in this game. Because I think we know that Ohio State's going to score. I don't think that's a question. I think they're going to score 25, 30 points.
Can Indiana score?
Can Indiana
35?
Can they score enough to beat them? Yeah. I don't know that's the case. Indiana's a 10.5 point underdog. That's the latest betting line.
Yeah.
You said you're taking Indiana on the points. I'm not. I'm going to take Ohio State. I still think they're the best team in the country, or one of the best at home. Too much for Indiana. This is too big a stage for Indiana. I'll take Ohio State minus the 10.5.
Yeah. So I am going to take Indiana plus the points, although I did like that better line earlier in the week. That's the one that I've actually bet.
Hold on, I'm going to turn on a little light here. It's unplugged. Okay, never mind. Jake gets into my studio and he messes everything up. So there we go. All right. Well, let's stay in the noon hour, the noon early window. If we don't want to stay on Fox, let's go to ABC and we get a little game swamp action. Ole Miss coming, number 11, Ole Miss is coming to town. And Ole Miss, listen, their season's all ahead of them. Play Florida, play Mississippi State, win. And you may have a shot.
Trap game.
Trap game. It is a trap game. You may have a shot at the SEC championship, but they are looking ahead. They're thinking this is an easy win. This is a trap game. Now, I feel sorry for the Florida fans because this game belongs in the afternoon and the evening. Playing a noon game in the Swamp just seems criminal almost. But it's a sold-out game with the Swamp. They should be ready to go. DJ Lagway's had another week to get healthy. If you're Ole Miss, you are firing all cylinders. You had that great game against Georgia. You've had a week off. Which team are we? Are we going to see them come out flat for a noon showing, and Florida's going to catch them by surprise? What do you think?
I don't believe so. I think, unfortunately, even though despite my Florida shirt, I believe that Ole Miss. I think ever since Trey Harris, right?
Yeah, Trey Harris should. He'll be back for the game.
Ever since Trey Harris came back from injury, Ole Miss has been an unstoppable machine. I don't think they come out flat. I think Florida, while they have a good pass rush and improving secondary, I don't think it's going to be enough to stop Ole Miss's offense. And I certainly don't think Florida's O-line can stop Ole Miss's defensive line.
Yeah,
especially because DJ Lagway is not looking very mobile right now. He's going to be running for his life against Ole Miss's D-line, which is one of the best in the country. So despite DJ Lagway's heroics and the beating of LSU, and this is not LSU's offense either, where you can just drop 8 in coverage every time. Like, Ole Miss can run the ball too. It's not just QB run, Jackson Dart can run, and they can they have deadly wide receivers out wide. So unfortunately for Florida, I think this is going to be the surprises end here, at least for the moment. And I think that Ole Miss will probably cover this game as well.
Yeah, Ole Miss has one of the best defensive lines in the country, and they're just so much better than LSU. Florida played a great game last week, but just LSU can never really get the pressure. Ole Miss will get pressure on this Florida offensive line. I mean, now, what could be the difference in the game is if Florida can get some time to protect DJ, can they hit a few spots? Can they keep it open? Maybe. I don't know. I do think it's going to be a crazy crowd. It's the last home game for the year for the seniors in Florida. Who knows? Crazier things have happened. Ole Miss has, they've laid a stinker at home this year against Kentucky. That wasn't earlier in the season. I don't think it's happened. We got a question in the chat. What are your thoughts on Billy Napier? I think Billy Napier has tied himself to DJ Lagway.
Yep.
DJ clearly likes Billy, and Billy has saved his job basically with this team's better performance in the second half. Listen, you come out and beat Ole Miss, they may give him a contract extension.
Yeah, hold your horses there. Hold your horses there. You gotta win. Yeah.
Billy's picked up some recruiting wins in the last week after the LSU victory. So if right now, if you feel at Florida, you're feeling pretty good in the last week. Much better than your in-state rival Florida State. Much better than LSU, which we should get to here soon. Now, in fact, why don't we switch gears here? Not only did LSU lose last week to Florida,
they lost in multiple ways.
Yeah, they took a big hit this week. Jake, you want to tell us about what happened?
Yeah, so LSU, the whole conversation around LSU has been Brian Kelly. They didn't bring in players in the transfer portal. Why didn't they do that? Well, because they were counting on next year's recruiting class. Who is in next year's recruiting class? Why, none other than one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen, probably Trevor Lawrence. And his name is Bryce Underwood. He's going to be an automatic starter day one wherever he goes in the country. And he is legitimately that good. He's 6'3", like 208 pounds, like a fast runner, strong, accurate arm. Like if you could cook up a quarterback in a lab and customize every trait, like this would be it. He's a good leader. He's got good ball awareness. He's got good placement. He's got good play, like field awareness. He's got everything that you could possibly want from a quarterback. He's number 1 overall player, number 1 overall quarterback, and LSU lost his commitment. He flipped to Michigan. And that is, first of all, from the LSU side, that is disastrous for LSU because he was the linchpin of their class. They've already lost a wide receiver commit that flipped to, I believe, Florida State.
Maybe, I don't.
They flipped to someone, but they've already lost a wide receiver commit. Like Brian Kelly has had a disappointing season so far, and that recruiting class was supposed to kind of boost that up. And I mean, look at what DJ Lagway did for Billy Napier. You bring in a quote unquote generational quarterback, a really good elite quarterback that can change that can change the trajectory of your program. Having an elite quarterback like that. Now they don't have that. All the elite quarterbacks are committed for next class. There's going to be no flipping anybody else, at least that are 5 stars. So, and even of the rest of the quarterbacks of the class, none of them are Bryce Underwood. He's next level, really good, like unbelievable talent. It's going to be interesting for sure, especially because, I mean, for Sharon Moore in Michigan, this is a huge win. Or they've really struggled this year. They don't have a quarterback. That's been their problem. Like they do not have a quarterback, and that's why they've lost. They also don't have wide receivers. Getting Bryce Underwood allows you, you can recruit receivers in the portal and in high school, because if you don't have a quarterback, receivers don't want to play there, right? So they got this guy coming in. He can run too, so that's the way Michigan likes to be super physical. Like huge victory for them. In-state kid. He's from Detroit, grass Michigan. That's a huge get for them, and
Yeah, and that puts a problem for Brian Kelly because again, that was the linchpin of the class. Brian's got to scramble. And so there's rumblings there. Well, what's going to happen? Well, first of all, Brian's got, I think, a $60 million fine.
He's not getting fired.
I don't think he's getting fired
this year.
But going into next year, it puts a lot of pressure on next year. They're going to have to go to the portal and find a quarterback because I don't think their quarterback's on the
Is Nussmeier turned out?
That's a good question. I guess
I don't think he's gone pro.
Could come back. You don't think he's going pro?
I might. I don't know. It's a good, interesting question.
Okay, so maybe they don't need to go get a quarterback. But I just think, we've seen what Nussmeier's done this year. I mean, he's not 10-1. I mean, they're
no.
So all of a sudden, there's going to be rumblings next year. Brian Kelly will probably enter the year on the seat, which will be probably.
I tend to agree. Yeah.
Anyway, while we're talking about LSU, they do play the game against home. They go home tomorrow night to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's had an interesting season. They've had a couple of good wins, better than they normally have. But I think LSU is a 7.5-point favorite. I don't think LSU loses to Vanderbilt at home. They might come up with a $60 million tomorrow night if he loses to Vanderbilt at home. I don't think that's going to happen. I'll take LSU minus the 7.
I tend to agree there. I'm not betting it, but I am agreeing on that side.
All right. So let's see. We talked about a couple of noon matchups. I mean, I guess we could touch on, since Reed joined us in this chat here, we're going to talk about SMU at Virginia. The 14th ranked SMU Mustangs are just on the fringe of the playoffs.
Oh, this is at SMU, isn't it?
No, it's at Virginia. It's up there in Charleston. We could go up there if you want. I'm sure tickets are on sale for $5.
I know Reed is going to be at the game.
Virginia has no chance. I mean, SMU would have to drop a complete. Now, SMU did play that great last week versus Boston College, and that was at home. I mean, they kind of let Boston College.
Yeah, they didn't play that great. They still won by like 9.
But it was a late touchdown. It was a 3-point game.
Yeah.
Late touchdown. I would be stunned if Virginia State in this game. I would be absolutely floored. I think SMU knows that they've got much more to play for down the road. I don't know if you saw today, though, Rhett Lashley did sign a contract extension with SMU. That's going to keep him there through, I think, the 2032 season. But I don't expect SMU to have any problems with Virginia.
So, yeah, I don't know if, love the Who's. We'll see what Tony Elliott can cook up. They get the win. That would be amazing. Unfortunately, I do not believe that will happen. I will be happy and thrilled to be wrong if that is the case, Reed. So,
all right. Let's go to the 3:30 window. We've got the Big 12 is on the line tomorrow afternoon for 2 big matchups. We've got Colorado on the road at Kansas, and Kansas has gotten feisty lately. Do you believe that Kansas can pull the upset tomorrow over 17th ranked Colorado?
I do believe that Kansas can pull the upset because, this is kind of, I know this is a crazy take. I think Kansas can do it. Kansas has been playing well. Jalen Daniels has been playing well. Colorado, sneaky little trend here. Colorado against running quarterbacks has been a little less good. It was closer against Baylor. It was closer against who's the other team they played that had a really good running quarterback? I'm blanking on now, but their let's just say their QB contained play has not been fantastic for Colorado. Jalen Daniels, can run the ball really well. Lance Leipold. This, it's almost a pick'em game. A little off that maybe like a 4-point neutral field type thing. I think Lance Leipold is much better in-game coach than Deion Sanders. Nothing against Deion, I guess. As a program builder, he seems to have decided to try to do that now, especially with the commit from Julian Lewis, who flipped has reclassed and flipped. But I think it's more trusting in Lance Leipold's close coaching in kind of a close game, Kansas there. And I did get them at +3.5. I think it's +2.5 now. It's +2.5 now. I'll take the 2.5 points. I think Kansas wins.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's stopping the Deion train. I believe the high prime time is headed to the Big 12 championship. Give me Colorado minus the 2.5. I don't care what Jake says. We need to keep fading Jake, folks. Believe in the fade.
Hey, I'm over 500 right now. So
now the other matchup, which is going to affect the Big 12 championship, BYU.
Huge game.
Which all of a sudden dropped at Arizona State. Josh Pate's going to be there. We're bringing back Sparky the Sun Devil helmets. Yeah. We're bringing back everything. That's on ESPN. Thank goodness ESPN decided to cover someone.
Cam Scatterbo.
They decided to cover someone other than the SEC for once. Arizona State's a 3.5-point favorite in this one, which makes sense to me. I think it's too much Sam Levitt. I think it's too big a game for Arizona State. Arizona State can feel it. I think BYU has been running on fumes the last few weeks. I think they're going to get on the road and they're going to have 60, 70,000 Arizona State fans in that building, and they're going to lose big. Give me the Sun Devils. I don't think BYU's even close in this game.
Yeah. Give me the Sun Devils -3.5 to win and cover. Arizona State, bold prediction, Arizona State may be the Big 12 representative in the playoff. They have the running back. They have the quarterback. They have the coach. Really, that's all you need. You get a wide receiver and some O-line in there too, but their O-line.
Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver. Yeah. He's going to be everybody. Everybody's going to want him in the fourth.
Yeah, he's unfortunate.
If he goes.
Although ASU has money, so I don't know. They might be able to lock him down. We'll see. I like Sam Levitt. He's been really good. I love Cam Scatterbo, still unsure how to pronounce it. Announcers keep switching it up every week. He's fantastic. Arizona State's got a good defense. Kenny Dillingham has done wonders for this program. SU wins at home, and they win and cover. I bet them -3.5. I think they are.
This will be a big atmosphere out of
huge.
I think this huge. I think they're going to show up big.
SU has also got a lot of recruits at this one as well. Yeah. This is a big one for them.
Now, if you don't like the Big 12, we can go back to the Big 10 in that hour, and we can go watch some good old-fashioned Big 10 Wisconsin versus Nebraska. Wisconsin fired their offensive coordinator, Phil Longo, over the week, earlier this week.
Good moves.
Probably good move. Nebraska just fired theirs 2 weeks ago. So, both these teams are looking for an offensive identity. Nebraska's a 1.5-point favorite. Dylan Raiola has guaranteed a win to get to a bowl game. And I think Nebraska's, while these teams are pretty equal, I think Nebraska gets them this week. I think Nebraska gets over that hump. All we've been saying is they've had 9 straight losses in games where they've been required to get to a bowl. I think they get them this week. I think at home, Nebraska, minus the 1.5, they win outright. Covers more than 1.5. They're going bowling for the first time in 7, 8 years.
Completely agree. Nebraska, Raiola gets them to the promised land finally in 2, I would say, pretty evenly matched teams with struggling offenses. The difference is going to be the quarterback, and Nebraska's quarterback is vastly superior to Wisconsin's. So give me Nebraska -1.5 and to win, basically. So
now, yeah, I agree completely. Now, the other Big Ten matchup, which is number 4 Penn State at Minnesota, this is the CBS game, and you got to feel sorry for all these CBS announcers. They went from the SEC to these big.
They went from Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss to Penn State, Minnesota.
Well, they don't even get the best Big Ten this week. They get the B game. But I'm gonna tell you what right now, and I think Penn State's a good team. I think they're looking ahead. They're looking at the playoff. I think this has got upset potential written.
I agree with you there.
I don't know if Penn State has had 2 really good. They play a lot of games at home. the two road games they really had against, what was it, Wisconsin, or was it Illinois? Illinois, one of those two. But USC, they were down at halftime. I think this could be, if they're not paying attention, they could lose this game. I'm not certain I'm willing to bet this game.
I don't have a bet on this game. It's kind of a keep your eye on it type of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, don't be surprised if we're all turning over to this in the third, mid-third, late third, going, oh my gosh, Penn State's down. And how many times are they going to get the ball to Tyler Warren to save them?
Yep. And the answer is a lot.
A lot, yeah. So now, again, we'll I don't know. I just think this is a dangerous trap game for Penn State. And nobody may be watching until late in the third or fourth.
Yep. I also just want to highlight, if we're in the Big Ten real quick, I'm taking Michigan State minus 13.5 versus Purdue. I think Purdue is awful, and Michigan State has good quarterback, a good coach, and they've kind of they've played decent this year against a really tough schedule. Purdue is atrocious. They fired their OC. Their coach may be gone at the end of the year. Like, get 13.5, 2 touchdowns. I think Michigan State easily covers.
Now, ESPN, ABC, because of their affinity for the SEC, they're giving us Kentucky and Texas at 3:30. And the only reason I think they're giving us this game at 3:30 is because I guess they have some kind of contractual obligation to show Kentucky once during the year. Never mind the fact they should be giving us Ole Miss and Florida in that time slot. But Kentucky's at Texas. Texas is a 24-point favorite. I don't think Kentucky has any pulse left at this point in the season.
I think there's a very small chance Kentucky covers.
Small chance they cover, yes. I think Texas, you guys can go to the game. You can still sip your wine and cheese, and you can get out to whatever bar you want to get to.
Probably the bar, comedy show,
probably by 7 o'clock. You'll be fine. Yeah. So take Texas. All right, then we get to the night matchups. This is where I find there's some intriguing ones. First of all, we go down to Houston, where the Baylor Bears are trying to continue their hot streak as one of the hottest teams in the country. They're 8.5-point favorites. I think this line is ridiculously low. Houston is not very good. I think Sawyer Robertson is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the country. This offense is hot. They have seemed to have found their sea legs. I don't think this is going to be close. Now, this is the FS1 special, so nobody will be watching except Jake and I, and maybe a few other fans in the Waco area. I'll take Baylor minus 8.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did get it at Baylor minus 6.5, which I think is a much better much better odds. Or remember, guys, always check your early week lines, because sometimes there's stuff and you'll be like, no way, that's good value. So always check your early in the week lines. I will say Baylor has scored close to 50 points for like 3 consecutive games now. Their offense is elite. Their defense is a little suspect, but I just don't know that Houston is really built to keep up with them. I feel like if you can score over 35, Houston just kind of is going to give up, and they cannot keep up with them. Houston's defense is not atrocious, but I don't think they're stopping Baylor.
Now, Houston will be wearing those sweet love you blue uniforms. So
yeah,
that will be fun to watch.
The not Oiler uniform.
Yes, the NFL got mad at him.
Yeah,
but so I don't know. There's not a whole lot. Dave Aranda's job was last week.
Dave Aranda's really secured his job this year. I think this will be a good win. Fingers crossed for Baylor. I think it'll be good. We also got in the night slot the showdown of America's team and America's other team, and that is Notre Dame versus the United States Army. And unfortunately, the United States Army do not get to bring artillery, tanks, and helicopters with them. They have to go out there in pads just like everyone else. The line is 13.5, isn't it?
14.5.
14.5 now. Okay. Yeah, so I think that Notre Dame should win this, but I would like to point out for all people that say there's no chance Notre Dame wins because they blew out Navy. Army is significantly better than Navy. That's pretty well known at this point. Second point, Notre Dame lost to NIU, a mid-level MAC team. If you can lose to NIU, you can lose to an undefeated Army team. So I think it's definitely a possibility. I'm not picking it, but just from play style alone, and I'm myself not entirely trusting Notre Dame's offense against a good defense. Army's defense is good. It's not great. It's good defense. I am taking Army plus 14.5. I like the hook on that. That's really nice. I'm not sure that Army wins, but it is a possibility, and this is definitely a game to watch, a ranked matchup. And boy, if Army wins this, blow all your playoff scenarios in the trash, because this will cause absolute chaos. Because if Army wins this, there's a real possibility that the Big 12 may get left out for 2 G5 teams. and that would be pandemonium.
Yeah. So go back, Notre Dame played Navy a few weeks ago. Notre Dame, gave up over 5 yards of rush to Navy. So there's a path here that Notre Dame.
Army's QB is much better than Navy's.
Yeah, Army's QB is,
and their defense is much better than Navy's.
So it's not that Notre Dame can't be beat in that fashion. The difference is go back to the Northern Illinois game, and you had Notre Dame turning the ball.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think that's the only path. If Army can run the ball well, and if they can get some turnovers early in the game, get out to a lead, maybe you can
kind of sit on it.
Yeah, and you can make Notre Dame can be pressing. But I think right now Notre Dame is really, really playing well. I think they've got everybody in the right positions. I don't foresee that happening here. I think this Notre Dame team, as much as it pains me to say it, I think they're in the right position. I see Notre Dame having a bigger struggle maybe with USC the following. I think USC could, because of that rivalry, maybe.
Do you think Notre Dame's going to cover as well?
I think Notre Dame will cover this.
Okay.
Now I'll be rooting for Army.
14.5 is a tricky number though.
It is, but I think Notre Dame's beating them.
Especially because Army plays slow.
I think so. I think Notre Dame's been really good lately.
Yeah, they have. They have been blowing teams.
This game is in New York. It's going to be favorable to Notre Dame. The crowd.
Army's in New York.
Yeah, but Notre Dame has a bunch of New York alumni. Somewhere, they'll be fine. They're not going to be lacking fans in the Bronx. I think I'm going to go Notre Dame.
Okay, cool.
Now the other games of the evening, you can tell me that your ABC that you just want ratings because you're putting up a terrible game. Alabama and Oklahoma doesn't belong in the 7:30 night slot at ABC. It's ridiculous. Okay, this is just because we have your rights and we just want to get ratings. Because honestly, the Texas A&M Auburn game should replace that because that's going to be
I would like to make an appeal to reason real quickly. It's always been the ratings, the teams with the ratings. That's kind of, I think, a different discussion. You can't really be mad at the networks for trying to put on the teams with the best ratings. That's always how it's been. I'm not really mad at it. It's a different discussion about playoff control and that kind of crazy stuff. Alabama's always been in primetime. The Cowboys are always in primetime. This is not like...
But is Texas A&M Auburn really going to get less of a rating? No.
Yes.
No, it's Texas A&M and Auburn.
It will.
Those are big names. Alabama, nobody wants to watch this Oklahoma team. Nobody wants to watch.
Well, then it's going to be a comment. If they did that, then it's a bad decision, and the other team will get
I guarantee you, this game will be over in a...
I'm not going to watch the game because it's probably not going to be very good.
It's going to be.
But I'm also not mad that they put it in cover because I can just switch the channel.
We're going to be watching 3 or 4 other games and not watching this game. It's going to be that Alabama game is going to be over by the first quarter. The 13-point favorite.
Boise State, Wyoming, rivalry, historic Mountain West rivalry.
I'm out
at 7
o'clock. I'm going to go up here to the podcast room. So Alabama's 13-point favorite. They're going to dispatch of Oklahoma. Oklahoma can't score. They just can't. And so, unless you tell me Alabama's going to score 10 points, they're not going to lose.
Yep.
The intriguing one of the night, I think, is Texas A&M at Auburn. I don't understand this line. How is Texas A&M only a 2.5-point favorite?
Don't really know either, but I'm kind of scared to bet it because I don't know what's wrong. Like the market knows something I don't. So I'm not betting this game. I think A&M should easily cover, right?
Good, right? Are we just pricing in Jordan Hare and just the crowd and
it weirds me out.
Hasn't done. Yeah. Now you tell me Auburn doesn't turn over the ball, then I can kind of believe it.
Yeah, but they turn over the ball. That's part of
that's who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know this. This game is a real. We're going to watch this game. We're going to be excited to root for the Auburn Tigers, a War Eagle. But and listen, I don't think Marcel. Well, Texas A&M for me is they demolished LSU a few weeks ago. We all fell in love with them. We know what LSU is at this point. Not a very good team. So I'm not convinced Texas A&M is as good as Georgia, as Alabama, and Ole Miss. And I don't know why we're giving them the love we are. I don't think Marcel Reed is that.
Why the line's like that?
Maybe it is. I don't think Marcel Reed is that great. I think they're still trying to figure out things. I'd be worried if I was if I was a Baylor fan. I'd be worried that Sawyer Robertson's going to be a Texas A&M.
He's not. The worry is the offensive coordinator,
Spavital.
Sawyer's not leaving. His girlfriend's at Baylor. He chose Baylor over several other teams last time specifically because of the faith element. He really loves Dave Aranda. The worry is about Spavital leaving. The worry is not about Sawyer.
All right, we're hearing from Nacho Man. It's the first game in Auburn in a while, so the crowd will be rocking.
Oh, I'm sure.
I believe it will be. And if Auburn can keep it close tomorrow night, I think that game will be really exciting. I just don't believe Baden Thornton. I'm sorry. I don't believe we've seen at this point of the year, you know what you are. We know what you are. We've seen enough. And I just don't believe the Auburn offense they're gonna make too many mistakes. And I mean, I watched that Vanderbilt game in person.
Yeah.
They just couldn't put enough offensively together. So I'm not going to bet it, but I think it'll be an interesting.
And if you're looking for a late night game with a little bit of juice to it, USC UCLA is
good old rivalry.
And a rivalry game. Love it when they wear this. They're both the home uniforms. So I think more rivalry games should do that. It was great when BYU Utah did it. It's great when USC UCLA do it. This is key for Lincoln Riley here. USC UCLA has been kind of resurgent. You know, they're not great, but they've kind of beaten some teams you wouldn't have thought they would. This is really key for Lincoln Riley here. He needs this game, especially, you know, with Notre Dame on deck next week. Like, he needs to show some progress because they really have not been fantastic this year.
And UCLA has really been playing well.
They have.
I think this will be a big win for USC, a big win for Southern Cal recruiting. I think this is an important game. 10:30 p.m. I will not be watching this, obviously, but I'll watch it. Highlights. What do you think about Virginia Tech goes on the road to Duke? Do you think is Virginia Tech good? Duke has been. Let me tell you what. Duke belongs in the AP poll. Okay, go look at their record. We got there's a lot of
7-3 teams.
Well, yeah, but go compare them to some of the other 7-3 teams. They actually have a better resume than some of these other 7-3 teams.
Maybe.
I think they take down the Hokies. Okay, let me read you their resume. 7-3 Duke. They lost by 1 in overtime to SMU. That's one of their losses. They lost by 22 on the road to Miami. Okay. And they're 1-0 versus the Big Ten, and they got 2 wins over other bowl eligible teams. That's as many as Missouri and Illinois at the back end of that 25.
I'm not arguing Missouri and Illinois should be ranked. I'm saying
I understand.
There's a grab bag of 7-3 teams, and Duke is one of them.
I'm just saying, if you're looking at the top 25, at the bottom back end, we have all this love to Missouri and Illinois.
I think Illinois has shown more than Missouri.
And I think Duke is better than them. I think their resume is better.
I think Duke and Illinois are probably comparable teams.
I'm just saying, we're not getting any love because they're the Big Ten. Duke should be Virginia Tech tomorrow, right? And that would make Virginia Tech, 5-6?
Yeah.
And then that means they have to beat Virginia too.
Which they will, of course, because that's always how it works. You can never get the Commonwealth Cups. Never.
What else? What other games?
We've got Iowa State, Utah, right?
Is that the game? I guess there still is a path for Iowa State. It's not a clear one, but there is a path.
Yeah, Iowa State, Utah is at 7:30 on Fox. Baylor, Houston should be that game, but
Iowa State,
it's
a different.
So that's not a horrible game. Yeah, keep your eye out. You know, stat watch Hunter and Gentie for the Heisman. Those are basically the 2 contenders at this point. I think Cam Ward could still get there if both Hunter and Gentie kind of fall off. It's really interesting to see kind of the narrative around Hunter because he doesn't have elite wide receiver stats or elite corner stats, but it's just because he plays both, which like tells you something like, hey, maybe you should pick one and be elite at it. Like I genuinely think Colorado would probably be a better team if he just played wide receiver all the time instead of playing corner, because the pass defense really isn't exceptional with him playing corner in it. And
he's not in the top. Hunter's not in the top 100 in receiving yards per reception. He's 29th in interceptions, tied for 23rd in passes defended. I mean, he just doesn't have the resume.
Yeah.
That
and Ashton Gentie is number 1 basically every rushing stat. He has more yards and will finish with more yards than the last 6 Heisman winners who were running backs. Like, he's put together a pretty clear-cut case to be the first G5 Heisman since what is Houston?
Yeah, probably the Houston quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I it's kind of like, in my opinion, I think unless he has like a couple of bad weeks, I think it should probably be Gentie at this point, even though he's no longer on pace to break Barry Sanders' record. He is on pace to be the best, have the most rushing yards since Barry Sanders, which is incredibly impressive, especially in an era now where people don't run the ball as much. Yeah. So, Scott, we also got some other games. We got Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Arizona, TCU. Miami's playing Wake Forest. Who knows? But yeah, basically we got the big games. We got some other smaller games. other things to look out for. Should be a good weekend. Usually this weekend is kind of quieter because of like a lot of teams playing a bunch of nobodies, before rivalry week. But we've got a lot of really interesting games this weekend.
We're coming down the home stretch, so Hoppy Huddle's here to watch it all together. We're going to be live in person together, and then
give y'all a reaction show on Sunday.
Sunday sometime, even Sunday. Yeah. We even post Sunday afternoon, or we don't really know the time for Sunday yet. And then we'll do another podcast either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Probably, yeah.
Thanksgiving episode before all the big games. So, all right, good. Enjoy the games tomorrow, and we'll be back at it with you Sunday.
All right. Thank y'all so much. Good night. Bye.